Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to the fourth in the Marketing Management a VUCA Perspective Fundamentals lecture series. I am your instructor Siddhi Bhattacharya. In the first three segments, in detail and to a fair extent, we have tried to cover what the VUCA workplace of today and tomorrow is and will look like. We have figured out the kind of problems that currently are being faced by business and what managers of today and tomorrow will face very soon in the coming future. Now we are taking learnings from all these areas and jumping into the core concepts of marketing management, and then we'll keep working between the two lenses. We'll pursue marketing management in its fullest detail, while at the same point in time, through courses and through particular examples and case studies, we'll try and understand what really happened in certain specific scenarios and how certain instances in the life and times of certain organizations affected their destinies, their well-being or their fall. When we get into marketing as a space, there are lots of names in the world which have impacted the world of marketing with their thinking, with their vision, with their wisdom. One of the foremost strategic marketing thinkers and advertising doyens, Mr. Seth Godin, has said something very remarkable. He's saying that marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories that you tell. It automatically means that it's not just about setting a product in front of people, but creating something that is larger than the product, something that involves and engages the end consumer into the entire story weave that surrounds that particular product or service. Which leads us to the most important point here that we'd like to touch upon. This will be a continuing trait inside the entire communication piece that we have in this course, the case of narratives. Narratives are the stories that brands create and tell. Obviously, it also works outside the space of marketing and branding, but specifically in today's day and age, when you are rallying, and like the last time around we talked about tribing, the tribes that you create of consumers who you would like to keep on your roster, who you would like to engage with, and who you would like to collaborate and take forward in your journey of growth and prosperity, you will want to engage with them. Ancient cavemen at the end of day would sit around the fireplace and trade stories. It's very similar, obviously taken the form of whatever modern day entertainment has to give, modern day communication provides in terms of various interfaces, but storytelling as an art form hasn't changed. What has changed is the way they are packaged, the way they are told, and so therefore in today's conversation we are trying to understand what marketing is all about, where does it really state, what does it do, and who are the people, how do they get that entire ball rolling. So without further ado, beyond the necessary iconography of marketing, let's delve into how the audiences will identify and align with a particular product or brand which you will end up marketing. The course module today is therefore New Realities in Marketing. Yes, this keeps the VUCA lensing alive and keeps you always aware, the same situational awareness that we were speaking about when it came to managers grappling with the realities of VUCA. Why this is important is that you need to understand that marketing has a very central space in the organizational success. and it is important prior to delving into these conceptual topics. So, you have to understand what the scope of marketing is, what the dynamic new marketing realities are, and what is the role of marketing in the organization. So, when we talk about the scope, it is a journey, a complete path you take towards defining and running the entire scope of marketing. You identify and meet all the human and social needs of your customers and consumers, and you harmonize what the goals of the organization are with the needs, desires, and aspirations of the end consumer. At the same point in time, the entire VUCA lensing describes the marketing realities to be dynamic, they keep shifting, they keep changing, and so therefore, one must always keep abreast of trends that are there, and therefore, market forces play a large role, which is why we have so far been thinking very heavily with subjects regarding to market forces. And these are shaping the relationships among different market entities, whether it is the organization, its ancillaries, its suppliers, its distribution network, the end consumer, influencers, and a variety of other people. You need to understand how marketing outcomes stemming from the interplay and emergence of this entire scenario give rise to something called holistic marketing, which we will also touch upon. And finally, when we talk about what marketing does, how is it constituted, what are the expectations and the roles that marketing is supposed to play in the organization, it starts with the overarching philosophy, what the purpose is, and this is something again we have touched upon, because you need to be believable, you need to have some sort of values, you need to have some sort of a believable, identifiable system that sets you apart from everybody else. Like how I am as a person. I am a man, I am 5 feet 10, I wear my glasses, I speak in a certain voice, I have a certain way and mannerism of speaking in a certain language. So, in similar ways, a brand also has external persona traits, which consumers first identify and then they resonate with. These are aspects that help in determining the best means to build a customer-centric organization, because the customer is primary to the entire organization's existence. If the customer were to go away, the business would fall flat. So, therefore, listening to the needs and desires of the customer, the insights that drive their lives, is something which will help the organization to thrive, and thereby it can deliver value both to the internal company stakeholders who want profits and gains from the running of the organization, as well as to the external stakeholder, the customer, the influencers, and the various other people who view the brand from an outside lens. So, the three areas which we will cover today, we will start with the first, that is scope of marketing. This is the first and most basic step of entering into the space, that is marketing. Let us start with an example. Always nice to start with a story. So, we will take an example of Bird e-scooters. Now, you have seen children ride around in scooters. What if we put a little battery and powered them to run on their own? No more effort required, easily zipping across streets? Yes, precisely that. So, Bird e-scooters managed to create a product. The product was an e-scooter which was battery powered, and these were affordable and eco-friendly because there were no emissions, and these were commuter transportation, and this was founded in 2017 in Venice, California. Now, what Bird offers as a basic product offering is shared electric scooters. You use one, you let it be, it gets picked up, and the next user goes on to use it. You access this via a smartphone, obviously through an app. You do not need to dock it at a specific space and walk the rest of the distance, just leave it where you want to leave it. And what the convenience of it gives you is short journeys, seamless city navigation, because you have a way to navigate through the app, and you get reduced traffic pollution because again no emissions. This organization through its product found rapid growth and currently is operating in 100 plus cities across North America, Europe, and has also stepped into Asia. Now, it has been able to do right in the very first year, and so far more than 10 million rides have been logged. Quite an amazing feat for a humble little electric scooter. What worked for them was not just the product, but also the way they engaged with the consumer. Obviously, the app gave the consumer convenience. They could pay, they could actually park, they could find the scooter where it was, and they could plan their rides because navigation was also part of it. They also introduced innovative systems like bird delivery. You want a scooter for a fixed certain specific number of days or time, you get those scooters delivered to you for guaranteed daily use. So, it is almost like a rent-a-car, only this is an e-scooter. The other thing is that there was a bird platform which they developed, where there are different tools for independent operators. It is like you owning a fleet of bird e-scooters. That gives you an edge to loan it out from your side, and on top of it, what you could actually do was brand it with your own personal fleet's logo and own it as a co-owned, co-shared kind of business alongside Bird. The custom branding and logistical support which the organization gave led to a very, very quick adoption, and that is what actually pummeled them through that particular meteoric rise right in the very first year. Thinking the conditions of who your distribution network will be and how your end consumer will be actually taking up that particular product and using it is something which comes to your aid. And that typically is fantastic when it comes to planning marketing activities. It's not just about creating a great looking product, building in great features, and also building in certain value for money, but also the ease of use. So, the ease of use by itself, and then obviously going to town with it, talking about it, created the natural adoption which saw this meteoric rise for the particular product, and Bird e-scooters the brand. What can we learn from this? What has happened here? We can see marketing has happened, but what is the definition of marketing? Marketing is meeting the human and social needs. Human need being, I need to commute. Social need means I don't want to pollute my environment. And this is in alignment with the organization goals, because the organization is creating a product which is pollution free. It is touting it as a pollution free commuter transport which is shared. So, then you don't need to own that particular product, but the benefit of it is you still get to travel at your own convenience in the city. And the American Marketing Association, one of the foremost marketing bodies in the world, says marketing is creating, communicating, delivering and exchanging offerings. Now, Bird e-scooter was obviously the offering, but also was the app, also was the fleet capabilities which people could aggregate and run with in the local areas. So, all of these are offerings, and this provides value to customers, the partners, the people who partnered up with them, and to society at large, because yes, you are not polluting at the end of the day. So, this is the larger definition that the American Marketing Association has put forth for what marketing should be doing. This is classical understanding of marketing. So, what is the raison d'etre for marketing? The reason to exist. Marketing typically has a lot many roles. It not only ensures that sales are finally affected for the organization in a positive way, but at the same point in time, it also creates an interactive space between consumer, between partners, between the organization itself. It sort of creates a conversational ecosystem around the product and brand. Importantly, the first thing that marketing does is create a social role. Marketing delivers a higher standard of living. Your problems are solved, you get it solved by paying a certain amount, and therefore you value and prize that particular product or service you've used. And while you use it, you are creating value. In this case, you are commuting smokeless across a city, and you're doing it at your own convenience, and you're sharing that particular value, because when you do it and when there is a provider in the interim who also gains benefits out of it, that is a sharing of value which goes back into the community, into the economy, and that is something which raises, it's like a tide that raises all boats. So that is the larger prospect socially when it comes to marketing as such. So that needs to be looked at. The other part is from the manager's perspective. So what does a manager look at? Marketing is about selecting target markets. You need to know who you are picking out, and you have to foster, you have to make friends with those particular customers. You have to build relationships, and you are to deliver superior value. This value that you create, generate, and therefore deliver is something which brings a certain desire fulfillment for that particular intended audience, and it is beyond selling. You sell once, every single sell is a unitary transaction, but marketing is actually creating a connect. When you do effective marketing, you are selling superfluous by creating product services that fit customer needs and ensuring that people keep coming back to you. Obviously, yes, if you are selling them a home, a product may get sold once, twice, thrice maybe in the entire lifetime of that particular individual. But when you are selling FMCG products or consumer durables, the frequency is significantly higher. If you are selling food, it is almost every day. So all of these things are reason for marketing to create that particular pathway, that big highway through which brand stroke product stroke organization can connect with the end consumer. Now let's understand what are the items that are marketed. Let's go right up from the bare basics. Goods, which is an obvious first, whatever gets made. Now there is a commodity like rice, pulses, vegetables, and there is a product which is probably like a burger. Both are being sold as food, but one is commodity, one is product. Together they get classified as goods, physical goods in this case, and they make up for majority of production and marketing activities because mostly people are trading goods. And in most countries this is the case. In fact, in the US, companies sell billions of canned, fresh, bagged and frozen fruit products, and along with that millions of cars, refrigerators, televisions, machinery and other essentials of a modern economy. So everything that makes the country go round is obviously being traded, and so that entire selling process requires a little push because lots of other people are trying to sell their brand, their variety, their make of goods. In case of services, services again are very common. They are seen and understood very clearly as items that are marketed. So here it encompasses a wide range of offerings. You can fly using an airline, you can stay at a hotel, you can book a car or the e-bike that we saw, you can go to a barber for a haircut, trim yourself at a beautician's salon, you can get repairs at your home, and you can maintain your car. You can have professionals like accountants, bankers, lawyers, engineers, doctors, even software developers come and provide services to you where you need it, whether at home or at work. And if you're running an organization, again there are management consultants who take on a share of the workload that is supposed to be done by the organization. Only they specialize in that particular space. They provide that highly specialized skill and service, and so therefore they charge you for it. So now many market offerings combine goods and services. Here what can happen is probably you can buy a meal. Now a meal is a combo, and that combo, that mixing of items can provide you with an opportunity to sell both a product as well as a service. For example, you need water at home. You've bought an RO filter. The RO filter is the product, but every year it will need its parts changed. What do you buy with it? You buy an AMC, an annual maintenance contract. That becomes the service which comes alongside, and when you bought it for a lower price than the actual servicing if you were to do it a la carte, that is something you've pre-purchased, and so therefore it costs you less, but is bundled along with that particular product you've bought, the product itself, and therefore it's a bundling here. The service can be bundled with a product, and that is a very, very clear and simple example for people to understand. Similarly, now you've got events which are again marketed. Why? Because events are places which could be ticketed, which people throng to, and so therefore there are a variety of events, whether they are local or whether they are national or whether international. So there could be major trade shows, performances by artists, and you could also have corporate anniversaries, because companies, if they have performed well, would like to thank the staff that has brought them there. And you can also experience global spectacles. We've recently seen the Olympics in France. You've seen the Cricket World Cup, which we thankfully brought home. It's marketed not only for people who fly into the stadiums and watch it, but also to the audiences sitting at home. Why? Because they're equally important. When they are viewing that particular content, inside of that, what you get to see at times is advertising, where brands can place themselves and actually solicit a sale. At a local level, you can have very quaint and happening things like craft fairs, bookstore readings, farmers markets, and you can create blood donation drives and a variety of other things. Marketing necessarily does not mean that it has to end in a sale, but it may have a certain interaction, at least if not a transaction. So that interaction is something which is expected as a result of whatever marketing activity you're doing. If it's of monetary value, then this will turn into a transaction, hopefully. That is a goal of where marketing tries to push its audiences towards. Then beyond events, you have experiences. Now what are experiences? Similar to events, but they are fixed. They are there. It's just that when you decide to go there, you will buy the tickets and enter that particular environment. For example, you've got theme parks. You walk into a theme park, whether it be a water park or it be an amusement park, you get rides which you cover. If you're going into a museum, you look at the various things that are on display at that museum. So things like that can be marketed as well. If there's a very new collection which has come in, say jewelry or certain archaeological finds, and there is a certain curiosity which can be driven, and when people come in, they pay and buy tickets, then you can actually drive footfalls there. Similar to that is a mall. A mall can run a retail festival. A retail festival again is an experience and as well as an event, and it happens for a short period in time. The mall advertises and cajoles the customers to come and attend. Similarly, personalized experiences can be there, where you spend, let's say, a week at camp. So you take a getaway in the Nilgiris, or you go into the Sundarbans and camp out there, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. You go and enjoy a game of golf with Kapil Dev. You are playing golf with a retired sporting legend. Similarly, you could take a tour with a celebrity, and these things work both ways nowadays. We'll get into the details of the same once we get into more communication related aspects, but maybe a celebrity chef's gourmet food at a 5-star restaurant is an experience by itself. Similarly, if a renowned trekker takes you up on a climb to the Himalayas, a lot of people have gone up to the Everest base camp. This could be also an experience which can be marketed. So this defines a whole plethora of things that marketing can actually support in terms of commercial and non-commercial activities. Now, even people can turn into brands. So when persons are of a certain repute, when a lot of people know and follow them, they become celebrities. So you could be looking at artists, musicians like we spoke of, business leaders, physicians. You could have renowned lawyers and financial experts. A lot of people in India market talks, market meets where they go and speak at public fora, and people pay at these places and get to hear them in person. Or it could be online also nowadays, especially after COVID. There has been a sharp rise in online gated and ticketed meetings where people pay and attend over a video call. So, these are also ways where you can market a webinar, for example. Now, they seek support from marketers to enhance their personal brands. They showcase what they have done, why people should trust and believe them, testimonials from people who have helped, who've been helped by these people, and a lot of examples like Indian athletes and entertainers who have excelled at self-promotion are very common and can be seen in the world at large. One of the stunning examples, obviously, in the sporting area is Virat Kohli, and in moviedom it is Shah Rukh Khan. So, even in music as a space, you will see A.R. Rahman. So, there are lots of celebrities who made it large. Nowadays, if you see content which is up there on DTH channels or even regular television, you will see examples like Big Boss, which is a congregation of celebs and semi-celebs. These people have a certain following already. They are in there to enhance that particular following and get more opportunities at one point in time. The content that is generated is something which entices the audiences to watch it. So, even these spaces provide them a certain stature and a certain ability to brand themselves. So, being part of such programs allows them to showcase who they are, what they do, how they think, how they operate, obviously getting them more visibility and probably more projects in the future. Even management consultants are big in terms of personal branding, and one of the big names, Tom Peters, has famously said that every individual who wants to have a public persona, they should view themselves as a brand, and this is a philosophy which is also embraced by many Indian professionals and public figures. In fact, many people today as coaches and as mentors are doing the rounds, and they have successfully marketed themselves and created their own micro nano communities which are ardent followers and advocates of the way they coach and mentor. Similar to these are places. Now, when I say places, it is not just what we see here, that is cities, states, regions, even whole nations. It is also the way to position a certain government in power. For example, we have seen the G20 being promoted very heavily by the Indian government when we hosted it. It positioned India under the current regime, and it showcased what steps they have taken, what kind of favor they have earned with the international community and its stature and standing in the world. So, this is also part of a branding exercise, something worth studying, and this can actually create more avenues where you attract other people to what you have to showcase. So, you get tourists, you get residents, you get more investment, therefore more factories, and big companies want to move in, they want to set up local headquarters. So, all of these things are possibilities once your place branding is great. A few examples like Madhya Pradesh tourism come to mind with excellent communication over the years, which is very, very inviting and catchy. And nowadays Rajasthan, Goa and a variety of other places like Kerala have also come up in a huge way and have run shoulder to shoulder in terms of gaining visibility. All the other states in the country are also slowly waking up to this possibility of attracting tourists and investment, and hence they are positioning themselves in a myriad number of ways. India itself has positioned itself as incredible India. So, that again is a fantastic way to position itself as a place which goes beyond something that you could have imagined. Great way to place yourself. So, placement, positioning and all these things we will delve into in detail in further modules, but for now just simmer into that particular space, let that particular thought process seep in as we go further into what else can be marketed. Before we get there, who are your helpers here? You get business associations, advertising and public relations agencies who actually help you achieve these tasks. Then people must stay, people must work, people must commute, people must have property. Property is another huge market which needs to be marketed. Properties have intangible rights of ownership by either real property, which is real estate, even financial property in terms of stocks and bonds are also property. What you own, it's of certain value, and these are bought and sold. So, whatever is bought and sold can obviously be marketed. There are different ways to go about it obviously, but marketing definitely works, and these require marketings to affect that particular exchange. So, there are real estate agents who work for property owners. Similarly, you have got stockbrokers, you have got sellers, you have got people who buy and sell residential, commercial real estate, and for each of these capable properties, if we can call them as such, you have representatives who sell them, and they also project that particular property in terms of marketing. They run ads, they create content and ensure that people are watching. Yes, but at the end of the day, the biggest of them all is in the business space. So, organizations, yes, organizations themselves are also worthy of being branded, and they do so every single day by the droves. Why? Because they could be even museums, they could be performing arts organizations, corporations and businesses, even non-profits. We spoke about this, that it needs to end with interactions. It may not necessarily end with a transaction, but then again, if you are donating clothes, that is possibly a transaction which does not have monetary value, but it also has a certain altruistic value. So, all those things are part of the conversation here. Now, typically even educational institutes, several institutes have introduced a CMO position, so that what they can do is they run their institutional identity and reputation, covering aspects such as admission, brochures, social media platforms, and they will use whatever is available and are present on platforms like Twitter and what is now called X, and this is part of their overall brand strategy. Obviously, a lot more is there to be seen, but these are certain few examples and a certain few ways they are working. Then what you can also market is information, information in the form of content, in the form of news, in the form of any consumable knowledge. What channels will you use for this? You use TV, you use radio, you use print, online, government studies, businesses, and then you have got educational institutions themselves. So, companies rely on information, and they are provided by organizations like Nielsen, Gartner, Kantar. These are big research companies, and then you have got Indian counterparts like CRISIL, CMI, etc., who are also creating their own reports, their own stats. All of these things are used to think certain things through in terms of policy, in terms of implementation, in terms of strategic planning, long-term planning, etc. So, these are pieces of information alongside content which is there to be consumed. All of these things are information which needs to be marketed, because if you do not know what you can get access to, how will you be able to actually put it into use? So, therefore, information also gets marketed, and that has its own role. This typically is more business to business as a transaction, but it is still marketing. And then you have got ideas. Yes, why not? Anything that you can think of is a concept, and therefore, even though abstract, it is still a product. So, therefore, you can advocate people to participate in those ideas, and you can get exemplary output like Swachh Bharat, Make in India, etc., which are climbing up the ladder, and you have got enough critical mass when it comes to Swachh Bharat. Make in India is catching up, MSMEs are picking it up. So, that way a lot of progress is pushed when you propagate ideas. The propagation is through marketing channels, through marketing communication methodology, and that helps people actually bind themselves to a particular cause. Typically, political parties also champion such causes, and they have various things on their manifesto like poverty alleviation, healthcare reform, women's empowerment, to name a few. And many organizations which are large enough and have enough money in the coffers also project their corporate citizenship by getting into corporate social responsibility activities, and they address certain issues and causes that they feel for, like poverty, climate change, gender equality, healthcare access, child nutrition, and many such more. So, all of these things need to be also spoken about vocally. Why? Because it helps the organization create that necessary positivity around itself, which marketers and marketing managers of tomorrow will also be doing as they walk into their workspaces. The market is always transactional. There is a give and take at every single point, which is showcased here in the market exchange model. A lot many varieties of markets exist. You've got resource markets where you can buy commodities like coal, gold, copper, iron, steel and what have you, rubber, oils, commodities like food products, petroleum and such like. You've got consumer markets where finished products, goods, consumables are being put out. You've got manufacturer markets, which is B2B generally in nature. Here services, capital, goods, taxation, accounting, services, management consultancy and a variety of other things can be given. And then there are intermediary markets, markets that are transitional in nature, which help provide certain things from one to the other market. They make that transition happen. At the center of all of these things is the government market. The government also is a buyer of a variety of things. It also at times does sell certain things like government bonds. It puts out bonds which people can buy and invest in, thereby securing certain sovereign bonds and money in it. At every single space you will see the inflow of money. Money is what makes the entire thing go around, and it obviously is the standard through which transactions are made. In terms of services, there are a variety of services. You have taxes and goods going from resources to government, services and money coming back. From manufacturers, you get taxes and goods going to the government, government gives them in terms of services and money. When you have got intermediary markets, again services and money come to them, taxes and goods go to the government. The consumers also avail government services, send back taxes. And amongst themselves, they exchange resources, goods and services. So, this is the entire scope of how market exchanges work, which brings us to the new marketing realities and understanding what is happening and what is changing in the world of marketing today and why managers need to be cognizant of that. In terms of technology first, because this is the most disruptive and everyday change that we are going to see and are seeing already. You are seeing rapid technological growth. Companies which are at the forefront like Flipkart and other AI driven innovations. You've got people running bots, running AI and ML based targeting systems, chatbots for customer support and what have you. So, a lot of Indian companies are picking these capabilities up and running with them, and they are leapfrogging into the worldly equilibrium of this, and they are also utilizing data driven insights. So, therefore, you can see Reliance Jio, Paytm and a variety of other companies using these data driven insights to put forth certain specific kinds of plans or products in front of a certain audience segment. Similar to that, you are getting to see newer business models. You have got Ola, which is running cabs similar to Uber inside of India. You have got Zomato, the food delivery guy, and Oyo, which is now one of the biggest hotel chains in India and is also spreading legs outside of India. They are leveraging technology to disrupt markets, and the customer experiences are also getting redefined. They are trying to shape how people perceive them in a positive light more and more. Again, because technology is getting the access of whatever is possible into the hands of anybody who has access to a smartphone, you've got democratization of technology. So, the kind of audiences that can open up to an organization and to a product and brand is growing larger. The only thing that may stop them currently is their ability to pay, but even that changes with growth. If they learn more, if they earn more, they are able to afford you. So, you may want AI and data analytics by your backside to actually keep checking which segments, which audiences are opening up and keep tapping into those. Smaller Indian businesses can utilize this, and they can actually start getting into those spaces which the larger behemoths are leaving open, and they can gain their particular benefits from that. Traditional marketing is also getting enhanced because of technology. You've got warehousing where RFID has come in. you've got delivery systems where parcel sending, courier sending and propagation of logistics has been taken over. You can actually now track where your consignment is all across the country with GPS and RFID, and there you get real time CRM updates. When you get a package at home, you always get an intimation that the delivery person is coming at your place. So, it improves the data accuracy and it also increases sales and customer satisfaction efficiencies. The other bigger force that we see is globalization. We are exposed, and a lot of that. You can see that advanced telecommunications, better network connectivity, etc., and workflow platforms are taking away the geography and political barriers that were there of yesteryears. You've got people sitting and interaction going on across time zones. Global communication is a very in thing, especially after COVID, where major communications used to happen at very odd times of day and night, and people were always onto their devices. There is collaboration happening across geographies, and data mining is also being shared with vast server farms being placed all across the world, especially in keeping in compliance with certain local laws as well. For example, India has asked very strictly that Indian customers' data be contained within the Indian geography's boundaries. So, therefore, organizations which were multinational have moved Indian consumer data inside of India's geographies. Things like that have been unprecedented, and they have brought about a large amount of change, and they have forced organizations to rethink their structures also. The impact of globalization has been that businesses and customers are now interconnected, and typically the term we heard that the world is flat is truly becoming a thing of today. This shows how globalization has reshaped the business practices. And McDonald's now uses, for example, remote call centers for seamless order processing. They have outsourced the entire activity to a third party. Again, there are challenges which come of it. You are getting rapid advances, and therefore businesses must stay competitive. And for example, the US workforce is focusing on specialized skills and superior products to compete globally. Their phones, their weapon systems, their satellite communications technology, their computers, etc., are things which they have actually leapfrogged decades ahead. So, those are aspects that they are trying to keep ahead. Also, their educational institutes are a big product, and the courses that they sell from there are a big product, which they use as an inroad to their economy. Demographics and innovation, the changing face of it is also showcasing which way communication is headed when brands talk to consumers. In terms of middle class expansion, you have seen India's bulging middle class. C.K. Prahlad's pyramid has now a huge bulge in the center. It has become a trapezoid, and this phenomenon is especially being seen in Asia. You have got growing economies. India is there, Indonesia is there, next door Pakistan is there. Many countries are displaying growing middle class capabilities, and this requires reverse innovation as well. So, for example, GE's portable ultrasound scanner, which was developed for China, it has found global success in niche applications across mostly the medical space. The point is that innovation once tested in a particular market can be replicated quickly in others, and that is typically true for things that get tested in India, because what works in India also works actually very, very well in LATAM. So, companies use India as a test mule market and then take products from here and also ship them to LATAM countries and other similarly strata based countries for now. The physical environments are also changing. You can see that climate is a big factor nowadays. Climate change, you can see extreme weather, which has become very commonplace nowadays. Rising sea levels have actually, Indonesia is threatened right now with the sea levels rising and most of it islands going away. And this can actually disrupt industries in the future. So, they have to guard against that. Agriculture is the first thing to go, tourism is the next, manufacturing, if it is there, could also be affected. Again, global health, has become a big factor. Pandemics like the recent COVID-19 we faced, it affects all sectors. There was everything that crunched to a halt, paralyzing life as we know it. And this affected commerce, this affected livelihoods. All of these things are reshaping the way people are thinking their operations, thinking their logistics, thinking of how to create backups and backups of backups. So, business implications for people are, like I said, Jakarta has been thinking of shifting their capital to another place because of the rising seas, and therefore, global travel is amplifying disease risk is also something we have seen. All of these factors together are affecting the way companies must think to be viable and be able to thrive in the coming future. Planning is again important. And with growing transparency, with growing awareness, there is also connectivity which brings about the ability of consumers to see what is going on in other people's lives, also in organizations' destinies. So, therefore, social responsibility becomes one big area of interest, if not concern. Here you see poverty, you see pollution, water shortages, like we spoke of climate change, and again social injustice. So, a lot of these factors come into play, and organizations which are doing CSR, or at least which are showcasing that they have a purpose, may pick up something from this or some other related space, and at least showcase that, hey, these are aspects which we feel strongly about, and there is a certain way we will react to these. Marketers' roles in this is that they should showcase how they are ethical, how they consider environmental changes, they are aware of legal implications and are ensuring that compliance is there, and what social impact it leads to when it comes to society at large. So, all of these activities are under close scrutiny. Consumers are aware, they are watching, and brands need to up the ante, they need to perform and showcase that they are doing everything right. And socially responsible companies like Body Shop, for example, Timberland, Patagonia, they use social responsibility as badge value. They differentiate and build their tribes, which we spoke of. They build loyalty amongst these audiences, and they drive sales because that particular audience strongly believes in those particular purposeful systems, those values that the organization is trying to drive. The challenges here are consumer demand keeps growing. So, how do you balance consumer demand and you also at the same point in time stay sustainable? You give back to nature, you give back to the ecology, you give back to communities you are working with, and help everything stay balanced. While there are ethical dilemmas in this, you create product design that also addresses it. You look at circular economies. Your waste product, if it becomes somebody else's input product, then you have created a circular economy. Nothing gets wasted, everything is reused, recycled, revamped. So, that way the entire world does not produce waste, and therefore, it is a cleaner place, there is less carbon footprint, and we are able to manage what we have and leave a better world for our children tomorrow. So, all of these things together, a lot of activities happen in marketing. Marketing has become far more holistic. It is no longer the simple child's play variety of, hey, listen to me, I have got a great product, you should talk to my team and buy it. No, it is beyond that. When you have got stakeholders inside the organization, you must inspire, enthuse them. So, there is internal marketing. When you are talking to people and ensuring that they have a certain lifetime value which you are keeping them on board for, you are doing relationship marketing. When you are looking at every possible space that the consumer visits and you are there present, speaking in a language which is conducive and which is consistent, omni-channel, then you are doing integrated marketing. And when you are showcasing people things that they want because they have expressed interest, they have shown a disposition to buy a certain item, you are doing performance marketing. You are ensuring that your product hits their screen, their interfaces right when they want it. So, together a lot of these things have formed holistic marketing today, and holistic marketing will get more and more complex, the most core concept of VUCA. So, all of these things taken together is something which managers need to keep in mind. So, we come to the last part of today's conversation, which is what role marketing should play inside of the organization. Marketing has to bear a huge load in the organization's smooth running. So, for any business, it is a key task for that business to define the role that marketing will play. So, what roles can marketing play here? It must ultimately decide first and foremost the purpose. So, therefore, there is the overarching philosophy that the company must believe in, and it guides the company's marketing efforts. What they believe that this is strongly something we should create, we should work towards. This is the kind of audiences that we'd like to speak with first amongst all the segments that we speak with. All of these factors are things that marketing must look at, and then how to organize and manage the marketing department comes into play. Who all are the people? What kind of skill sets do they have? And finding, therefore, finally, the best means to build customer centric organizations. Remember, we've talked about why the customer is central to marketing's entire existence. The customer is the one you're selling to. They are the ones who are going to end up buying your product or service. So, if they are not satisfied, they will go elsewhere. If they are not buying you, they are buying somebody else. How can you survive? That is exactly why the customer centricity of the organization is a big torch that marketing carries, and by doing so, it delivers value to the company stakeholders. The company thrives and grows. So, what philosophy should a company's marketing efforts carry? There are various aspects in this, certain concepts which we can understand. The first part is production. Here, it is one of the oldest concepts in the entire organized industrialized world. It stems right from the industrial revolution days. Consumers prefer products that are widely available and inexpensive, which came from the whole point of setting up factories and assembly lines. This was aimed at achieving high production efficiency, low costs and mass distribution, because you've got the entire thing vertically aligned. You have got your supply, you've got your delivery, your distribution network, your end consumer all aligned. So, this is one way the organizations have been planning on doing these things. The orientation has been made, and there is developing countries like China, which currently is the largest PC manufacturer. Legend, which is principal owner of the Lenovo group, they are manufacturing the maximum number of PCs in the world. So, again, domestic appliances giant Haier, they have taken advantage of the country's huge and inexpensive labor pool to dominate the market. The production capabilities that they have brought into bear, the kind of labor forces, the kind of organizational capabilities and strengths they use, the factories they set up, the vertical integration that they have created, they have maximized the potential of production. And marketers use the production concept when they want to expand the market, because everything is streamlined. You know exactly what the demand is, where is it coming from, where do you set up your production facility, and how do you actually reach goods out there into the market. Then there is beautiful product design. So, product comes when people romance that actual product coming to them. Apple is one great example of this. At times, you have to offer the highest quality, the best performance and innovative features, something which has been the hallmark of Apple. Apple is celebrated for being great on product design. So, therefore, managers caught in a love affair with the products are found in spaces like Apple, Google and such like, and they always try and keep bettering their products. So, that also tends to become a mousetrap. But the better product by itself will lead people to beat a path to their door is the belief, and that is where these people are creating their product based organizations, and a lot of startups nowadays are also focusing on the product itself very hard. If it is a good product, then it can be properly priced, it can be distributed well, your distribution circuit works well, it will get advertised and it won't stop because the product is bad, and it will get sold properly. This is the promise of a good product. Selling typically is the aggressively pushing of unsought goods And this is one of the oldest ways of pushing through. It's typically everywhere in trade. It's more on the ability to over capacitize your trade. So this is giving way, although it is practiced most widely, it is giving way to more thinking based and creativity based product marketing. And finally, yes, marketing emerging from post World War II eras. This is a consumer psychology based, philosophy based way of pushing products into people's minds by their asking for it. You prefer that people ask for that product rather than you actually shove it down, like how it was typically the case with selling. And you can see that there are a lot of ways the sellers need to convert this product into cash. So before that is happening, marketing satisfies the needs of the customer. It finds what they need and then it solves them by the means of product and a cluster of things. So you create it, you deliver it, and finally they end up consuming it. So it creates a certain value driven conversation with the customer. The market value concept implies that every functional area should actively focus and create value for customers, the company and its collaborators. You will see through an example. The company, let us say, is Union Pacific Railroad. They can say by the product definition that they run a railroad, but when you create that value and have that conversation, we say you move people and goods. Paramount Pictures actually makes movies, but they are creating entertainment. And Carrier makes air conditioners and furnaces, but we provide climate control in the home is what they are driving as value. So that finally brings us to the team which should be running marketing. Yes, you have the chief marketing officer sitting on top, but there are various functions. You've got market research, which we'll cover, product management, service managers, communications, very important, sales managers who actually look at the final transaction part, public relations because you have to look good in the world, and brand managers. But the marketing, brand and product manager who's sitting in the middle of the organization and owning a particular product or brand has to deal with a lot of departments all around. So there is research and development which develops the new product. You've got product design which ensures that it looks great, communication so that you get the right voice and message across, distribution so that your product is there. When you advertise, people actually get to find it and pick it up. You've got sales promotion that gives incentives to people to buy that product, sales force that ensures sales promotions happen properly, marketing research that keeps checking on the capabilities developed and whether they're delivering, customer service that ensures after purchase or during purchase there are no problems. If there are any, you solve them, you keep tracking the customer at the end of the day, and legal which ensures you don't fall on the wrong side of the law while doing all of this. At the end of the day, managers sometimes think of marketing as the art of selling products, but many people are surprised when they hear that selling is not the most important part of marketing. It's just the top, it's the tip of the iceberg. And Peter Drucker, who is a famed management theorist, has put it this way: there will always, one can assume, be need for some selling, but the main aim of marketing is to make selling superfluous. It's just not really necessary. The aim of marketing is to know and understand, and we've talked about how performance and various other things work to get to that particular disposition point. So the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits him or her and sells itself. So you don't need to push that product. Ideally, marketing should result in a customer ready to buy, and all that should be needed then is the product or service to be available in front of them. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. Moving forward, we'll get into how consumers work, and so therefore a marketing approach with consumers first. That will be the next module. Thank you for today.